So welcome. This is Tune Into Your Body, the webinar that is going to open your world up to living more naturally with more natural options. So my name is Dr. Wendy Lee White. I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor, educator, nutritionist, and this Tune Into Your Body series is really going to begin philosophically today about big picture concepts about what it means to tune into your body and live accordingly. And then the five future webinars, so next week and the 4 weeks after that, we'll go into each particular topic that I believe is part of tuning into your body. And so how did I get here? What do I do? So first and foremost, I'm a naturopathic doctor to my core. What that means is I help everyday people, just regular, everyday, run-of-the-mill people like you and me, to learn more about their bodies, to help set up their lives so that their bodies function as we're designed. We're designed to be incredible beings, and when we live in this crazy toxic world, it's hard to be an incredible being sometimes because there are so many things pulling us out of balance. So tuning into your body is about listening to your cues and then being able to respect those cues and that information that you can learn from yourself in order to live a healthier life. And what that looks like, healthier, is of course subjective. For some people, that is more days without pain, or more days with less pain, or less headaches, or more regular digestive function, or energy and clear thinking. Anything that you'd attach to the idea of being vital, that's what we're looking for here. On all levels, mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. I believe that many of my peers, both nutritionists and naturopathic doctors, tend to prioritize the physical health over the mental, emotional, spiritual. I'd like to encourage you to open up when you're thinking about your own health, to open that up to consider mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. If you are just joining, I believe we have most of the people that I know of that registered. If you are just joining, I'm Dr. Wendy Lee White. This is Tune Into Your Body, the start, the kickoff of our weekly webinars. Hello, Sally. And so we are going to together explore what I believe are the 5 principles or priorities. I'm still working on that phrase. It doesn't grab me the way I want it to, but right now, it's the 5 principles or 5 priorities of healthier everyday people. We'll go into what they are, 1 per webinar in the future weeks. Today is really an overview of what my philosophy is and how I got here and why I think it's important. So let's talk about how I got here. I was a super sickly kid. All sorts of ear infections, all sorts of chronic constipation, all sorts of skin concerns, eczema, acne, all of that. And through my evolution, I was first a food scientist. I worked for an international food company as a product development scientist. I have a graduate degree in that. And I've seen the power of food, right? To make us not feel great, not make us, to help contribute to our not feeling great, or to help us feel really fabulous. And so I believe that food is an important piece of us as beings, but I don't believe it's the only piece. Again, back to that mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. And so what we'll talk about and explore in this series of 6 weeks or so, longer if it works well and you want to keep going, is nourish. That's where we talk about food, hydration, and supplementation. Move. Notice it's not exercise, it's move. Our bodies are animal bodies, and our immune systems, our circulatory systems, our lymphatic system needs to have movement. The third will be choose. That's the webinar that we will talk about lifestyle choices, sleep, clean living, environment, how you set up your life, what your circadian rhythm, what your 24-hour clock is doing. The fourth will be connect. That's when we talk about your connection to yourself, to others, and to something greater. And the fifth is balance. That's when we talk about the nervous system and how what state your nervous system is has an effect on every cell of your body, and how we can adjust our lives accordingly so that our nervous system isn't so overstressed, overtaxed. So philosophically, why do I do this? We are human beings. We are inherently imperfect. I think that a lot of the information that we get, that you get from our society, is very stressful, very pressured, very one-sided, very black and white. What I mean by that is, how many times have you heard what you have to eat, how you have to eat, what type of exercise is best for everyone? And I would like to help be that voice on the other end of the seesaw that says, hold on. If you're making a choice most of the time that works well for you in particular, then it doesn't matter whose rule it breaks. If it works for you as an individual, then that's the inner guidance I would like you to go for. So that is the discussion about internal guidelines as opposed to external rules. Our culture really sets us up to feel obligated to follow the external rules. We're supposed to eat breakfast at 8 a.m. and lunch at noon and dinner at 5 so that you have X number of hours after dinner before you go to sleep. There are all these rules, right? Sugar's poison, wheat's bad, dairy's bad, animals are bad, vegetarian's bad. There are all these rules that depends who you listen to. It's quite confusing. I'm suggesting that it's way less confusing if you learn how to connect with yourself, to listen to what your body tells you in many different ways, and to respect that and follow what your internal guidance is telling you the majority of the time. I'm going to pause here for a little identification for those of you who just joined us. This is Tune Into Your Body. I'm Dr. Wendy Lee White, licensed naturopathic doctor, nutritionist, educator. And here today we're talking about philosophically why tune into your body, why natural medicine, why are we complex mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical beings, all sorts of details of that. I encourage you to ask questions. We now have 8 of you online. And so in the chat box, the chat is how we will be using feedback. It's how you can speak to me without me hearing your voice. And so if you have any questions or comments regarding this philosophical introduction today, then do post questions here, please. Before we end, I will check the email, wendylee@drwendyleewhite.com. That is also a way for you to get questions to me, but I'm incredibly distractible, and so to have 2 things open at once is not a good thing for me. So I will check that at the end. So back to the concept of internal versus external cues. Internal guidelines. When I talk about listening to your internal cues, the things I'm talking about are things like, how is my ability to focus? How is my energy level? How does my body feel? What's my level of tension? What's my level of angstiness, of jitteriness? What is my ability to finish a complete thought and have my brain work in a way that I know it can? What's my level of pain? What is my level of being connected? How connected do I feel to myself, to my spouse, to my dog, to my cat? How connected do I feel to something greater? That could be a religion, a spirituality. the earth, a community, a faith-based community. It could be anything. But the ability to tune in is setting ourselves up for being able to hear that feedback, being able to hear and really realize, oh, how am I doing right now? So take a moment. Hopefully you're seated somewhat comfortably or standing. If you're multitasking, pause for a moment and just take a nice breath. We call it a belly breath. And really, when we're stressed, we're going to chest breathe. And when I take a deep breath in a chest breath, you're going to see my chest rise. That's a chest breath. A belly breath would be when you fully inflate your ribs, so your lungs, and your ribs move out, and then your diaphragm drops and pushes the contents of your belly out. So when you take a nice, full, deep belly breath, you're going to see that your ribs expand, your diaphragm drops, and your belly pooches out. Take a nice, deep belly breath. After doing that, check in with your body. Does it have anything to tell you? Is your bottom sore because you've been sitting for the last 6 hours doing Zoom meetings? Can you take this meeting standing up, looking at your screen or your phone? That's a perfect example of what I mean by tuning into your body, seeing what information it has to give you, and then responding respectfully or appropriately to it. Now, I don't believe that we can always do exactly what our bodies need in the very moment. I understand we have obligations, responsibilities. Some of us work, some of us have kids. Right now, most of us are at home doing things like this. So we can't always immediately respond to information that our body is giving us. But when we can, I'm suggesting that we do. For those of you who just joined, welcome. I'm Dr. Wendy Lee White, and I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor, nutritionist, educator, and this is Tune Into Your Body, a webinar that is helping people learn how to make choices in life so that they can be healthier, more vibrant, in less pain, with less symptoms, and really get what they want to get out of life, what you want to get out of life. So today is that big picture. What we've talked about so far is my why. I was a super sickly kid. I was very suppressed. I took Tylenol or ibuprofen to get rid of my fever. I took lots of antibiotics to get rid of my ear infections. I had all sorts of GI disturbances for the first over half of my life. And when I discovered natural medicine, holistic nutrition, when I discovered the fact that I was more than just a physical being, that I am a mental, emotional, spiritual being inside a physical body, when I've learned how to tune in to what my body is telling me, I've been able to become a more vital person. And I would like that for you too. How I got here was through the food science industry as a product development scientist, seeing how food can contribute to health or disease, but it's not the only piece. We have nourish, move, choose, connect, and balance, and those will be the topics of the next 5 webinars, and we'll really dive in. Philosophically, it's important for us to remember that we are all human. We can be a healthy, vital human being and have imperfections. For example, someone can be an incredibly healthy human and their default status for when they have some anxiety is to bite their fingernails. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. We all have default patterns. We all have ways when the world gets too much that we deviate from our optimal homeostatic balance right in the middle of the pendulum. We might deviate to over control, deviate to under control, or hang out in the middle where we feel like we have some resilience to deal with whatever comes our way. I'm encouraging you to have faith in your body, to have faith that the information that your being can provide you can help guide you and your lifestyle habits day in and day out. And because we are imperfectly perfect or perfectly imperfect, I can never decide which way it should go. Because we are human, there's no expectation that when we find a choice that works for us, there's no expectation in this philosophy that you have to do that choice all the time. We don't have to be perfect. There is a lovely Mary Oliver poem. Oh, you know what? I'll post it. I'll post it in my Instagram and in my Facebook and in my YouTube. It's a beautiful poem about how we don't have to be perfect, how we can just love what we love in this body. Oh, it's lovely. I read it at my last Aurora Chorus concert. It was one of the poems in between our songs. Anyway, I digress. We don't have to be perfect. We are human. So if you know something irritates you from a food perspective, let's say, and yet it is the signature dish of your mom or your grandmom or your best friend, and you know that you're going to be at a lovely connective gathering that dish is served, what I'm suggesting is that when you live your life mostly in accordance with what your body needs, you have resiliency. So that when you go to that family gathering and you have that one thing that irritates your system, whether it's heartburn or whatever it is, you have the resiliency that you can indulge. Love it, enjoy it, have no guilt about it, but you made a conscious choice that was what you were going to do for your mental, emotional, spiritual part of your being, even if your physical part may have some symptoms as a result of that choice. Important point. We are human. We are not perfect. We are not robots. We are not machines. We have the ability to make conscious choices, and we will get out of balance. And when we get out of balance, our bodies are resilient and strong and vital, and we will get into balance with added support or with time or with both. When we learn to rely on internal cues more than external rules, we're setting ourselves up for better success, for greater success. When you follow an external rule that is not made for you as an individual, that's made for a blanket society by someone, when you follow that external rule, if you deviate from that stereotypical someone for whom the rule was written, you're going to feel like a failure. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel like somehow you're weak, or you didn't have willpower, or you're going to be undermined somehow when you try to follow an external rule. If we can rely on what our insides are telling us, our intuition, our gut response, how well we're sleeping, how well we're thinking, how our body feels, then that information is from within, and it is tailored to you as an individual. Not someone else's rules, not something that you thought should apply to you but doesn't seem to. Why do we always feel as humans, when we follow someone else's rule and it doesn't work, why do we feel like we've failed? Maybe it was just a bad rule that didn't apply to you in the first place. I'm going to pause there. I'm Dr. Wendy Lee White. This is Tune Into Your Body, the first webinar in a weekly series every Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, where we're going to explore principles upon which a healthier, everyday person can rely and can explore. They're not difficult. This doesn't have to be hard. I've had 2 new patients who have only seen me virtually through Zoom meetings, through the electronic medical records. They haven't even met me in person yet. And this week we had follow-up visits, which are typically 4 weeks after the first visit. And the first visit, once I meet someone, I kind of begin to set the foundation of all of this, but we really don't go into a lot of individualized recommendations until I learn more about them. I review their labs. I kind of sit with the whole big picture. So what they get from that first office visit is a lot of this philosophical stuff with some other things to support. And both new patients this week, the 4-week follow-ups, felt significant improvement. And the reason I give this as an example is not to say, haha, I did a great job. That's not the point. Their systems did a great job at responding appropriately to the most basic foundational support. We are incredibly complicated, and we don't need complicated supports. Things like looking at our sleep, looking at foods that work for us, moving our body on a regular basis, connecting. These are the things that our bodies need. I ran a diabetes prevention program at NUNM for a couple of years in the last few years. And the CDC's program is designed as a three-legged stool. Food, movement, that's really where they emphasized, and stress management. In my view, when you emphasize 2 out of the 3 legs of a stool, you're awfully tippy. You need the 3rd leg to be emphasized as greatly so that your stool is more stable. Food, movement, stress management. Often stress management and our connection to others, our connection to ourselves, is neglected because in our world, in our medicine, physical tends to overrank mental, emotional, spiritual. We, the medical community, feel empowered that we can do something about the physical. But if we over-prioritize our physical health, if we say you have to follow this diet and it will make your physical complaint get better, if we're neglecting the mental, emotional, spiritual result of the stress of restriction and the stress of having to eat in a way that doesn't feel that it aligns with our bodies, then we're neglecting our whole being. I like to respect all aspects of our being: mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. One more concept, and then I'll open it up for questions if anyone has any. Remember, we're using the chat function in Zoom. That is the best way to chat. You can either send it to a panelist, which I believe is me only, or you can send it to everyone, and that's fine too. So the last concept that I want to really explore is the teacup analogy. For those of you who have been around me in one capacity or another for a while, you've probably heard this, but it never gets old. So, teacup analogy. We have anything that irritates us, add some fluid to our cup. Imagine that you're born with a small teacup, or maybe even an espresso cup, or a really honkin' mug. We're all born with different sized cups. And we're all born with a certain level of fluid in that cup already. I personally believe that I was born with a teeny tiny cup that was already full. So the moment anything came into my system that irritated me and added a little more fluid to my cup, I overflowed. If someone is born with a very large cup that has very low level of irritation, they have a lot of things they can be exposed to and be irritated by before their cup overflows. What happens when their cup overflows? That's when we create symptoms. For some people, when their cup overflows, when they've had enough of irritants and they can't respond baseline anymore, when their cup overflows, they might have a migraine, get an infection, get arthritis, have a flare of their diabetes or their cardiovascular disease, anything that indicates overwhelming inflammation is how our cup can overflow. You overflow differently than I do, differently than the person next to you, because we are individuals. We all have our default systems where we manifest the signs that we're out of balance. If you notice a little bit, I have a little red patch right here. It's exacerbated in the last, it's eczema or dermatitis or whatever you want to label it. It is my sign that something in my body is out of balance right now. There could be a myriad of things happening in my life that are a little bit overwhelming to my system. And so how I manifest it is a little red patch of dry itchiness right here. There could be way worse ways. I used to get migraines that would knock me out for days. I used to be chronically constipated and not have a bowel movement but once every week. There were plenty of other worse physical, mental, emotional ways where I showed that I was out of balance. If this is all that happens, it's not all. There are other things. I'm human. But if this is one of the things that happens when I'm out of balance, perfectly acceptable. What I like to help people do is to get their body resilient enough that when they do get out of balance, it is less frequent, with less intensity, and a more superficial reaction. I'd much rather have someone have a reaction on their skin than a reaction in an internal organ, for example. I'd much rather have someone have a physical ailment than a deep mental, emotional, spiritual one. Those are the ways that we can progress towards a healthier being. We are always going to have something. We are human. I hope that point comes across. That's a really important point. Our society tends to discount us, where if we have something that is out of balance, that we're just unhealthy and lazy and not worth it, and really gets a lot of judgment around the fact that a being isn't an expected stereotypical being. But we are all human and we all vary. Different sizes, different shapes, different needs. I believe that some people need to eat animal protein and other people really feel best when they're more vegetarian-like. It's individual. And the more you can tune into your body, the more you can learn about what you need. Then you don't have to trust what I say, what Prevention Magazine says, not that I'm picking on them, they just came to my head, what any other magazine says or what news report says. Sure, we can read research and we can read articles and we can learn, but we can take that in and see if it fits for us. That's what Tune Into Your Body is all about. So Sarah is asking, any good book recommendations for those of us who like to read? I used to have some favorite book lists on my website, but I don't know if that got carried over with the redesign. I think there is no perfect book, in which case that's why Tune Into Your Body as a book hopefully will come in the next few years. But Sarah, I will think about that one and I will post it elsewhere in all social media areas, and I'll be ready to talk about it next week as well. As to recap, this is Dr. Wendy Lee White. I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor, nutritionist, educator, and this is Tune Into Your Body, my webinar that is going to help you learn how to have greater habits to be a healthier person. No pressure, just information, encouragement, as much hand-holding as needed. And really what I'm hoping for is a philosophical shift to believing that you are an amazing creature, that you can listen to the information that your body has to share with you. And when you respect that and act according to what your body is telling you, that you feel the benefits of less pain, more physical health, more clear mental thinking, better sleep, better energy. We want to be more vital, more contributing humans for our kids, for ourselves, for our grandkids, for our spouses, for our communities, for our faith communities, for our earth. We want to learn how to make respectful, appropriate inner wisdom guided choices. That is my wish for you, for myself, and for all loved ones. I will open it up one last time for any chats that you want to ask questions, make comments. Please do join me. As you were all registering within Zoom, you had the choice of registering per each week or for the whole chunk. If you didn't register for the whole chunk, please do go back in and register per different weeks that work for your schedule. If you found this helpful, send me a message. If you have ideas of how it could be better serving you, that's the point, is to serve you, then send me a message and say, hey, this would be more helpful for me. Would you like graphics? Would you like me in a whiteboard writing those notes? What would you like? How would it work best for you? This, just so you have some background, this is my takeoff. I had a radio show in Connecticut called Tune Into Your Body, and it was a live call-in show, and I loved it. And I haven't done it in the 4 years I've lived in Oregon. And so this is the beginnings of recreating that Tune Into Your Body radio show. Okay, y'all, thank you so much for being here. Connect with me in all ways possible. I'm here to serve you. Let me know what works best for you. And I do hope that I will see you next week, which is May 7th? Yes, May 7th for Nourish. May 14th will be for Move. May 21st will be Choose. May 28th will be Connect. And June 4th will be Balance. And then we'll reevaluate and see how we're doing. You enjoy your day and hope to see you next week. Take care, all.